So I'm here with Alexa Hayon, and she was a student of mine in my entrepreneurship classes 6 years ago, so graduated in 2014. Alexa, what I would like you to do, just like give us a little bit of your experience at UNLV, what you did after you graduated, and where you're at now.
Yeah, definitely. So my first year of undergrad was actually at UNR. I did 1 year there and then transferred down to UNLV and finished my undergrad in business management or business administration with the emphasis in management. And I had always kind of been on a business path. Like, I think at first I'd started with the mindset that I'd continue on in accounting, and then decided to pivot. And I'm really glad I did, because I really like that I have kind of like a generalized knowledge set. So from there, I left and kind of just entered the workforce and started working with a startup that was running a corporate wellness center inside of McCarran Airport. And that was great. And during the last half of my time there, I started my MBA program at an online school and completed that after I transitioned into the company I'm working for right now, PetFlow, and I am now their business analyst.
So what is your job like now? What do you do now?
So right now we're a fairly small company, but it's an e-commerce retailer for pet food. The household competitor is Chewy, so everyone knows Chewy, right? But I kind of serve as the analytics hub for all the departments. So I help them with their own reporting, helping them understand their metrics. So the marketing department, looking at our ad spend and our cohorts and our speed to payback on our ad spend, and then helping them develop strategies based on data. It's really big. And then I also work with our merchandising department and our warehouse team to do workflow projections. And it's really nice to have kind of that variety, because you're never bored. You're not in marketing, but you get to get exposed to marketing and work with a lot of different teams. So I've really enjoyed having a versatile day.
How did you develop those skills?
I definitely loved statistics, and I probably, at the time I was at UNLV, I wouldn't have been able to articulate my love for analysis because I didn't really know that I had it. So I first started at PetFlow as a customer service rep, and they had an open position for a business analyst. And after I looked through it, I thought it'd be something that I was really interested in, because I really like numbers. Like, math comes pretty easy to me. I have a little bit of experience in Excel, and the only area I didn't have any experience or skill set in was around querying data. So I worked with the general manager at the time and expressed my interest in the role and my commitment to learning whatever skill set was needed. And so he actually let me spend time during my workday learning SQL and playing around in our database, so that I kind of had paid time to learn a skill set. But I think the other side of that was really challenging was there was no one to kind of help facilitate that learning. So it was probably a lot more time spent on it than needed to be, but still a great learning experience overall.
What do you think your goals are going forward?
I'm not quite certain on a specific career path or anything like that. I know I love analysis. I love technology. And more recently, I've been just trying to learn as much as I can about what the future of technology looks like, and trying to develop a sense of inspiration for where I want to go next. And is it more on the tech side? Do I want to be more technical, or do I want to continue down more a generalized path?
So we were talking a little bit before we started the video about background. So your major was management. You had some choices on electives. What influenced you to be interested in entrepreneurship?
I grew up with a father who is, if you asked him what his job was, he'd probably tell you he was an entrepreneur, a lifelong entrepreneur. And even though I didn't appreciate what he did growing up, I think it always intrigued me. And I always grew up with family members that would always reiterate to me to never work for somebody and always work for myself. Now, I don't always like believe that I have to be a business owner to be successful or to be like fulfilled, but I definitely grew up around business. So I love that energy and that spirit and that passion. And I think learning more about what goes into that was kind of like what piqued my curiosity.
What kind of classes help prepare you for some of the things that you've had to do so far in your career?
Honestly, I think lean business, that's probably the one class I was the most engaged in. You're probably one of the only professors that knew my name and we've stayed in touch. I think it's because everything that I learned, or a lot of it, was so easily applicable to what I've done after. And some of even just like the terminology of understanding what being agile means, or pivoting, or a minimum viable product. I mean, those are like three big words that I feel like I use on almost a daily basis at work that I can directly relate back to your class. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that always makes me feel good.
Yeah. Right.
Good. So, what do you do now? One of the things that I try to emphasize to students is, and this might be related to my own experience. I mean, sometimes people think, oh, you have a PhD, you know a lot of stuff. And I really feel like there's so much that I don't know. And I feel like we all have to keep learning. So, college isn't about where you learn, it's just like the start of it. So, what do you do now to keep learning about your field and in entrepreneurship and innovation in general?
It's a good question. I think a lot of different places as it relates to my own job. I have Google News alerts set up, so I get things coming into my inbox. I have a natural curiosity for what is going on, so I think I end up just Googling and searching for news articles and trying to always push myself to put myself in uncomfortable situations so that I have the opportunity to learn. It's difficult to find sometimes like the information you want to find. So I think finding someone who you trust to pass it on to, I think that might help a little bit. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have like role models or people that you follow that you kind of use as a guide star of what you want to do in your career?
Not necessarily for what I want to do in my career yet because I don't really know, but I followed for like such a long time like Richard Branson and
Uh-huh.
like other really big leaders and just
Uh-huh.
I think I take a little bit from everyone and I try really hard to have like um, an awareness of like what I want or what I find value in from like other traits of other leaders. And at work, I work directly with our product manager. And I think she's been a really big role model for me just in the way that our jobs are very different, but she's very well organized, she's very thoughtful actually, and how she looks at everything. So I've learned a lot from her, and I really appreciate that about myself that I can kind of take things from people like where I see
Uh-huh.
that it might help.
Cool. So do you have like a specific experience or that since graduating that has seemed kind of like an aha moment where you learned something from someone or from some experience that you could share?
Um, I don't know about an aha moment, but I maybe just in general with what I have learned that I like love to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was recently just like looking back on the UNLV curriculum for what's the equivalent of my degree, and there's so many classes that I didn't take that I I'm not even sure if they were offered back then, but now are so applicable to my like role and what I do. I'm like, wow, that was like such a missed opportunity. But I I'm that has kind of like pushed me to make sure that whatever type of learning I'm spending my time on, that I'm like maximizing it and that it's like very efficient. So that was a really good
That's
aha moment.
interesting. So this kind of like talking to, Alexa in 2013, like what kind of advice would you give to students that are, juniors or seniors, and they're trying to, um, figure out their next path, decide classes or whatever? What kind of advice would you give?
I think, at least for me, and this might not be the case for everybody, there was one class I took outside of yours that I loved. Well, there's a lot of great classes, but one that I found that like really held my engagement was I think it was qualitative analysis. And I couldn't really articulate, and I don't think I put enough thought behind why I excelled and why I liked that class. And I really wish I would have, because I think that would have been, I think I took it my junior year, and that would have been something that if I had been more thoughtful, I would have probably expanded on that and like press towards taking more analysis type classes or information systems types classes. So I think just kind of inherently like trying to bring like more awareness to like what you are finding yourself engaged in, like that's probably at least for me, that would have been a
Sure.
really good key to unlock earlier.
And that class was in the business school?
Yeah, and I might have botched the name, but it was definitely like qualitative analytics or qualitative analysis, something
Oh,
like that.
okay.
Yeah, a lot of graphing. I don't remember the exact content. I just remember
Yeah.
how much, like, one of
Yeah.
the only classes I did really, really well in.
Yeah. So part of university studies is that you're growing and learning about yourself, and understanding what you really care about is part of. It's great if you knew that beforehand, but
Yeah.
it's kind of one of the key benefits of a college degree is that you're exposed to all of these different things so that you can maybe find a path that works for you more clearly. But you have to be uh, aware as you're taking these things and kind of self-reflective and stuff. So
Yeah, definitely. But on the flip side, if I had kind of drilled down into a more defined path, then maybe I wouldn't be where I am today. And maybe I wouldn't have been as valuable because I think I am really versatile in my skill set. So
sure.
because I have a little bit of finance, a little bit of econ,
Yeah.
kind of here and there. So, it kind of, I don't know, it's serendipitous.
Sure. Any other advice that you would have for students to help them along their way?
I would say, and I'm not sure if this is something that like you share the belief on, but I actually see value in taking your time, and I definitely rushed through college as much as I could and packed in as much credits, and I don't think that was beneficial for me to actually like digest the information. And because I was a working student, I did have the opportunity to be able to, while I was working on my classes, kind of like have a better ability to like conceptualize things because I had a role where I could apply it to. So I wish I just took a little bit more time with it and gave it the quality work it deserved. But that might be a little bit more specific to me. But I do know that there, at least for me, it felt like there was a really big push to get through it as fast as possible and kind of maximize credits per semester.
I mean, I would encourage people that they want to graduate on time and stuff, but sometimes we choose classes because they fit in a schedule, or we're not really interested in them, but we just got to get it done. I find with my own kids as I'm helping them to plan what classes they're going to take, there is kind of that sense of, well, this will be an easy class. So try to get it done, and take this easy class because you've read the Rate My Professor reviews or whatever, and that seems like it is efficient, but maybe we're forgetting when we're in a university like how valuable it is to, again, to understand better about ourselves and what we think our interests are. It's not super useful to take a class that, if you have a choice, that doesn't seem to interest you in some way. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's always nuances to it, but yeah, like if you can find anything you're like slightly passionate about, it'll make it a lot less painful. The long
yeah,
study nights, yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, I really appreciate you talking with me, Alexa. I think it's useful to have the perspective of someone who's been out of school for a little bit of time. I think it's helpful to have former students that can give their perspective. Appreciate your time, taking the time to interview with me. So
Yeah, definitely. No,
yeah,
I appreciate it. It's been great to like keep in touch, and like I just always want to be like a resource to students too, because I know how daunting it can be to have a lot of uncertainty.
yeah, and that's something that I encourage my students to do, is to reach out to people who may be 5 steps ahead of you on the path that you think you want to take, and get some advice specific to that path. So you're a great resource if people want to reach out. You're available on LinkedIn and stuff.